Welcome, excuse me, to this latest edition of the Real Deal Podcast on this 6th of July 2018. Normally, we talk about the world of sports and pop culture, but today we're going to kind of get away with that and talk about issues that are a lot more serious than Carmelo Anthony and Golden State. Um, As always, the call number is 347-215-6180. We're going to be soon joined by a special guest. You can follow me on Twitter at William Juro, or go to my Instagram page at Rillo Juro Quinn. Also, we are everywhere now. We're on SoundCloud, Real Deal Podcast. We're on iTunes as always. Go to iTunes.apple.com. Look up Real Deal Podcast to find us. So we are on a number of platforms that you can find us. This program, of course, right now is live on Blog Talk Radio as we speak, and also on YouTube as well, and it will be available to my YouTube audience uh, anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes following the broadcast. Again, if you're Blog Talk Radio, you got to wait a little longer. I will try to have this out uh, early Saturday morning. I'll try to have this program this program out early Saturday morning for my Blog Talk Radio audience. But again, you can listen live right now on Blog Talk Radio. We are recording this live for my Blog Talk Radio audience. Last time I checked, Belgium was up 2-0 over Brazil. France has already advanced in this is the quarterfinals of excuse me, this is still not the quarterfinals. This is the round of 16 in terms of the World Cup. So before you know it, I think the final is on July 15th, because I believe it's the final. So before you know it, the World Cup will be over with. It looks like we're not going to get that. More than likely, that England Brazil dream match that a lot of people were looking forward to. But again, Brazil still has some time left. We know how explosive their offense can be. But the last time I checked, they were down 2-0. I mentioned Carmelo Anthony. Carmelo Anthony is Oklahoma City is trying to part ways with Carmelo Anthony. Expected to part ways with Carmelo Anthony in terms of a stretch provision in buying out his contract. So he will be a unrestricted free agent. Free agent. Remember, Oklahoma City is knee deep. I mean, not knee deep, but head deep in the luxury tax. They're coming in close to $300 million between total salaries and luxury tax. I know they're trying to spend money, but that, even for them going out their way to try to spend a lot of money, that is not the way the way to go if you're Oklahoma City. So they you know they're expected to part ways with Carmelo Anthony. Who knows where, you'll hear the usual suspects. You'll hear about the Rockets, the Lakers, maybe some other teams that could pop up out of the mix and pick up Carmelo Anthony. Again, as a Laker fan, I wouldn't touch Carmelo Anthony, because I think at this point in his career, he's in just denial of where he's at in his career. He'll be in year 16. At this point, he should be a instant offense guy in terms of scoring. He should be an instant offense guy, nothing more, nothing less. But Oklahoma City doing what we expected them to do, and that's probably more than likely part ways with one Carmelo Anthony. Just again, not even be going beyond the luxury tax, but just from a chemistry standpoint. It just didn't work out with the triumvirate of Anthony, Westbrook, and Paul George. If you're Oklahoma City, you want to build around Paul George and Russell Westbrook and Paul George, and go from there. You don't want to be messing around trying to figure it out another year with Carmelo Anthony. That's just not the way to go for Oklahoma City. So they're gonna part ways with that. they're gonna part ways with him and move on and move on. Try to, again, free agent. There's still some free agents out here. Marcus Smart, to my knowledge, is still out there. You still got a couple other guys that you can get on the cheap right now that are still out there. There's still some guys that the Lakers have not signed. The Lakers seemingly have signed everybody, with the exception of signed everybody out there. And one thing I'll say, this was the one drawback about the signing LeBron James, and this is something that you have to deal with if you once you get LeBron James, is the kind of power that he's going to have over your organization, once he you know once he signs with your team. I mean, like so, and what I mean is LeBron James. You've been hearing reports about LeBron James basically approving the moves that the Lakers have made in regards to, raising Rondo, Lance Stevenson, JaVale McGee, Kentavious Pope, Caldwell Pope. So, of course, who is under LeBron James's agency, Clutch Sports, or the agency that LeBron James is connected with in terms of Clutch Sports. So, you've heard, this is what you're getting. This is what you get with LeBron James. And I wondered about this coming in. I thought the Lakers were in a situation where they didn't have to, or they were a strong enough organization with a infrastructure that could, wouldn't allow LeBron James to basically make decisions and be the king, for lack of, no pun intended, the king of the castle. But that seemingly might not be the case. And that, again, you don't want LeBron James. You want LeBron James to stay on the court. You don't want LeBron James making decisions, making general manager decisions. The player, LeBron James, the player, does not equate to LeBron James, the general manager. So that is something that you don't want to deal with if you are a fan of the Los Angeles Lakers. If you're a fan of the Los Angeles Lakers, or if you're within the Los Angeles Lakers organization, having LeBron James basically run your franchise, run your franchise through his general manager moves. So that's something that again, the Lakers are gonna have to deal with. We'll see how they deal with that. It'll be very interesting to see how they deal with that. We're going to be just getting started here on this latest edition of the Real Deal Podcast. We'll be right back. 347-215-6180 is your call number on this latest edition of the Real Deal Podcast. Again, earlier we talked about Belgium, Brazil. Belgium, last time I checked, is up 2-0. The World Cup, I know soccer is not a big deal in America because of the lack of American stars, and just America has just been awful in soccer for a long time, and gotten decent over the past 5 to 10 years. They've gotten to a point where they're decent, but for the most part, they're not able to compete with the behemoths of the soccer world. The Brazils, the Germanys, those, even teams like the Netherlands and Belgium, teams like England, of course, not able to compete with that. But as a fan of sports, a lifelong fan of sports in general, I can't say how much I've enjoyed watching the World Cup. You know, this year, the World Cup, even this year more so than other years. Um, the amount of passion that these countries, the fans, you have fans crying in the stands, and again, no other sport. Think about it, none of the other four major sports in domestically would you see fans crying in the stands unless it's a little kid or something like that, or a small child, um, for the most part. But you have grown adults crying in the stands during these soccer matches. I mean that we've had some classic matches. Uh, that Colombia match was tremendous. I believe it was Colombia. I want to say Colombia Belgium. I want to say it was Colombia Belgium match where you had when Belgium came back. When Colombia came back, Belgium ended up winning on penalty kicks. But you had a number of just classic matches over the course of this World Cup, and you know, you, you don't get that in a lot of these sports where you have fans who are passionate and who love their sports, but these guys, the soccer fan, this is they live and die with with these matches. And considering when you don't see a lot of goals being scored, it doesn't matter what the score is or how much offense there is. I guess one of the criticisms of soccer in terms of from an American perspective is that the fact that there is not a lot of scoring. But again, if you appreciate the artistry of the game, if you aesthetically, um, there's not a better game in the world than soccer. I mean, the amount of skill, the skill set that these soccer players have is off the charts. I mean, it is just off the charts good, great. So I've enjoyed it more so than previous World Cups. To be honest with you, it's been great to watch, and I'm just looking forward to the next couple of weeks, especially these quarterfinals with the knockout, the quarterfinals and the finals, the semifinals in the upcoming weeks. 347-215-6180 on this latest edition of the Real Deal Podcast. We'll be right back. Welcome back to this latest edition of the Real Deal Podcast here on this 6th of July 2018. We are now joined by Angel Enriquez, a DC activist. Angel, welcome to the program.
Hey, Mr. King, how you doing?
I'm doing fine. First of all, did I get the last name right? Is the H silent? Enriquez?
No, it's Enriquez.
Henriquez.
It's
See,
not Simon.
I,
Yeah,
I've been worried. That was my biggest fear coming into this podcast. Am I going to get this
it's
dude's?
alright. It's
I'm
alright.
going to get this dude's last name right. Welcome to the program. Angel, tell the audience about what you do and about how did you get into what in terms of your passion about it, about being an activist. How did you get into activism, and talk about you can talk about your new position as well.
Okay, my story about activism came after the Trump election. Before Trump got elected, my dreams was going into sports, either sports management. Um, I had a dream, maybe being the coach of a football team, maybe the Washington football team, and maybe win, more championships than Bill Belichick. But you know, this president came in, so I had to take action. And my story came after Trump's election. I organized the march with the school, and then I became one of the leaders with other students at Yale Haynes uh, for a march against Trump's presidency. So my activism story flew after those marches from Trump. Then I started getting opportunities to, start organizing with Critical Exposure, where I got my start with organizing. I started learning from them how to organize, and then after that, I took my activism to the next level by learning about other people who were oppressed, like the Jewish people in the Holocaust. I spent 14 weeks learning about the Holocaust, and then touring people through the Holocaust permanent exhibition last year for my internship. And I've been organizing about, uplifting DC voices here in DC through the mayoral election. Asking me and other DC students were asking the tough questions to Mario Bowser, and also asking the tough questions to our Attorney General and James Butler, who was the mayor candidate this year. I also organized little projects like the project that I was doing with kneeling for the national anthem. At rally, we had a moment of silence because I didn't like the way that Trump was talking about Kaepernick. Like, you have the right to kneel for the national anthem if you don't feel like this country represents you, and that's why we have the First Amendment. Now I'm working with NICBA DC, which gave me an internship to work in Charles Allen's office. That's my council member who represents Ward 6, and he's working hard on passing legislation to lower the voting age to 16, which is becoming a big topic here in DC.
What has been the most challenging part of being an activist at such a young age? I don't think the audience. You're 18, right? Am I correct about that? 18.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm 18.
So
Yeah.
what is it like? Talk to me about the challenges of being as young as you are, trying to get. You just went through a litany of things that you had to do and organize and try to pull together. What came off? What comes off as the biggest challenge in doing this job and doing what you do?
The biggest challenges would be like coming in, adults underestimate you and think that you don't know about topics, but I do. I learn about it in school, or I take my time reading books or reading about the issues, and that's the thing that has been a conflict here in DC. Not in DC, but around youth activism. They're like, oh, youth don't care because they only care about, what's happening in pop culture, what's happening, something else in social media. But I do care, and other youth around, the area, around the United States do care. They're informative. We don't only watch MTV. We watch CNN. We watch news to see what's happening in the world. So that's one of the challenges is adults underestimating. And then after, when I lay that knowledge on them, then they start respecting me and start, looking at me as a voice in organizing.
Of course, this is the Real Deal podcast. We're speaking to Angel Henriquez, who is a DC activist. He certainly has a passion for what he's doing, a passion for protesting, and that's where I want to get to now in terms of protesting. Now? When I was researching for this podcast, I really started thinking about the real meaning or the importance of protesting and the challenges of protesting. What to you? What goes behind what, what goes behind a successful protest, and also you can talk about what needs to happen after the protest. And I think that's where the protest.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are getting lost after they do protest in terms of what should be like the next steps post protest.
So a successful protest is a protest where no violence is used. You got your message out. You got everything that you needed to convey out. Like you're saying, Mr. Quinn, after the protest is where people get lost. It's like, oh, I did such a good job protesting. You know, I fought against all this. I said what I needed to say. I had my voice heard. But after the protest, there's still work to be done after the protest. Like, you can join an organization, or you can join the organization that sponsored the protest, or you can do many other things. Even a simple vote is something good after a protest. But that's where people are getting very lost on. And I feel like if we had, people or other people guiding people to go to these organizations, it'd be a better thing to do. And I'm not saying a person sending a protest, shouldn't be discouraged that you don't do nothing afterwards. But if you care about this issue, if you want this issue to be acknowledged, you have to do something after the protest. It's not just going out and with signs and doing that. That's what I've done after protests. I've joined organizations to organize. Because if I care about the issue, I'm going to go deep into the issue and start working hard with other people who really care about it. And people will put their excuses, oh, I got a job, oh, I have to do this. But no, you have time after your job. You have time after you need to anything that you need to do. You just have to make time to organize around that issue. And I've made time during my school year to organize. I made time even on my free time. So there's no excuses in not organizing after a protest or joining organizations, nonprofit organizations.
So you think that you believe that it's just a matter of sacrifice, like people, in order to be a successful protester, in order to for your message to go through and for there to be the proper follow through, you have to basically you're gonna have to sacrifice something.
Yeah, you got to sacrifice something if you want that issue to happen. And as we've seen in history, you can even go back to the civil rights movement. A lot of people sacrificed their jobs to boycott against, segregation. Sacrifice, not sacrificing their kids to not go to school because they felt like their kids weren't getting the same education as white kids were getting, and you see that in history, people sacrificing stuff. You see Kaepernick right now, who he could be making millions of dollars, being complacent to the NFL, but guess what? He's not going to do that unless he gets his demands. Getting him kneeling, being allowed to kneel for the national anthem, him being allowed to talk about social justice in the NFL, he won't go back to the NFL. And there's a lot of sacrifices that you take. But it's all for the common good. It's all for this country to be equitable, a place where people can be equal. Because as I posted in my 4th of July post, it's like this country hasn't been nice to the African American population, hasn't been nice to the Latino population, neither the Asian population. If you're not white, you're not being respected in this country, I feel.
You're around a lot of young people. Do you get a sense that your generation, because of what happened in the election and this administration, has that sparked a sort of revolution amongst your peers as far as, hey, we have to do, because I was reading an article a couple of days ago about how all of a sudden now you have a lot of young people who are interested in getting into law to better understand the immigration laws. Do you find that amongst your peers that this what transpired during the election, this administration has sparked just a hunger for information and a just hunger for passion for just change moving forward? What are your thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, for sure. The election of Donald Trump really had an uproar in young people because if you think about the Obama administration, a lot of young people, I'm not going to say all young people, but some young people were organizing, but not at the magnitude like this. In the Obama administration, a lot of people didn't have to worry about, a lot of issues They didn't have to worry about it. There were still issues there. There was still racism. There was still, sexism and all that. But people didn't want to wake up to those issues until Trump came along and he came saying those, outlandish things and out of the open racism. But yeah, a lot of young people are beginning to, I hate to say this, woke, but starting to wake up to the oppression that's happening around the United States now. And I'm glad that a lot of young people are waking up because they're ready to make a change. They're ready to organize, and they're ready to make change in where they live and change the situation, as we're seeing now with Vote 16 people. Those young people are organizing to lower the voting age to 16, and who would have thought that that would happen 3 years ago or 4 years ago? It's because of this election cycle. And I'm not going to say they're organizing around trying to get Trump out of the office. They're organizing so every young person can have a voice. You're either independent, either Democrat, or either Republican. But they want every youth voice to be involved in elections at the age of 16 here in D.C. So yeah, a lot of young people are waking up, and I'm happy that it's happening, and I'm happy that I'm part of this wave of activists, young activists, trying to change this system that's been around the United States for a long time.
I want to get back to the protesting. I don't know. I'm sure you heard about the woman that was not caught. I shouldn't say caught, but that was protesting on the 4th of July. She climbed up the base of the Statue of Liberty, and now she is sent. Now she could do 18 months in jail. Playing the other side, the devil's advocate. If I'm a prospective protester, and I see that, that might discourage me from protesting the fact that I could go to jail for not for I can get based not felony charge but a federal charge for something like that. And again, I don't know if she's going to do 18 months. More than likely, she probably won't have to do 18 months in jail. That's just the baseline of the charges. But how do you encourage how do you encourage people who might be kind of timid about protesting, fearing arrest, fearing loss of job, fearing there are certain fears that people might have be going before they protest. How do you kind of get how do you get that group of people to come to like kind of come join you and express to them how powerful of a tool that protesting is?
Well, people don't know. I mean, people know, but this country has always been built by protesting. A lot of people, just going back to the theme of sacrifice, a lot of people sacrifice their jobs. A lot of people sacrifice many things in life to get their voices heard. And the way I would encourage them is telling them, this is the time where the government will hear a big outcry from the citizens that something is not right. And this is your opportunity to voice that and to keep demanding change. I know people could be scared, and people are scared, oh, I'm going to get arrested, I'm going to arrest, but arrest is temporary. Some people even get their charges dropped for doing things like the woman that went on the Statue of Liberty. If she has a good, lawyer, I know there's free lawyers out there who do a good job of dropping charges. She has a good, lawyer who can protect, who can defend her well in a court case. Those how do you call it? Those charges will be dropped, and don't be discouraged. It's all about fighting for freedom. It's all about fighting for justice, and it's about bringing this country to an equitable country, and also sacrificing things. A lot of people have to sacrifice something to make this country better, and if it's getting arrested, if it's getting beaten, it's the sacrifice you need for freedom. That's what this country is all about, and this country is about protest.
I just thought about this. You're absolutely right.
Hmm.
You have to sacrifice to gain anything in terms, especially when it comes to like a cultural or any type of revolution. But I also was wondering about and getting, sticking with the protest theme and getting to the NFL. Like players, the majority of the players in the NFL are African American, like 70%. So if those players decided opening weekend of this season to be like, you know what, we're gonna just not play for this. We're gonna sit out a quarter, or we're gonna sit out a game. There, it would shut. It would literally shut down the league. Like the league wouldn't be able to like for that particular Sunday, whatever. The league couldn't function. But but the downside to that is again loss of salary, things of that suspensions, things of that nature, which is a part of what you're saying in terms of the sacrifice. But I also wonder to counter that is how we could create groups that says, you know what, if you do lose your salary, part of your salary, there's a system that we can create to where we got you as far as we're going to come together and we're going to put into a protest fund, so to speak, or seeing some minority celebrities, whether it be an Oprah Winfrey or Magic Johnson, saying, you know what, Kaepernick, we got you. I think that might, and even for you, even for what you do, creating groups that say, you know what, we'll help pay your bail money, or if you can't afford a lawyer. I wonder if that's the next step in terms of just coming together as a community, as minorities, in terms of protesters. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, yeah. It sounds like a good idea, Mr. Quinn. Having a fund would be awesome because most of the people protesting in the street may not have money to have a good lawyer to, help them drug charges. Or most of the people who protest may have, a part-time job that they can't even, take off and say, "Oh, I need to protest." They'll fire them on spot. That'd be a great idea to have a fund and have, these advocates, raise that money to help these people who want to be part of the revolution, want to be part of the movement, to still be a part and not be scared if they lose their job or need a lawyer to help them defend. That sounds like a great idea, and it's about having those celebrities come to the table and decide how much money they want to put up, or have a fundraiser to raise that money for activists around the United States. But that would be a good idea, and I might have to pitch that.
What are your thoughts? And I wanted to get to this as well about the immigration. What's going on right now with immigrant families being separated from families children and being separated from their families as of now. The number has varied from I've seen numbers from 2,047 to 3,000 families, 3,000 families separated. Two important dates to keep of note. July 10th is supposed to be a deadline for children under five and under to be reunited with their families. July 26th is a soft deadline. I wouldn't even call it a hard deadline, but a soft deadline
Hmm.
for all families to be reunited, brought back together. What are your thoughts on what's transpired over the course of the last couple months in terms of that?
It's this administration. Trump ran on, anti-immigrant, that he wanted to deport every immigrant. He didn't want no immigrants coming into the country. And, I haven't, this administration has just shocked me the way they do handle children. Imagine children separating them from their adults. That's inhumane. That's very, very cruel of it. Coming from a country that preaches, "Oh, we're going to give you, freedom, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Oh, we accept everybody here as a land of opportunity." It's such a hypocritical thing. And, my mother, I'm a proud son of an immigrant, and she came to this country for opportunity. She came to escape the war that was happening in her country in El Salvador. She came here to, make a better life for herself. and I see these children and these parents and these families separated. It's like they're coming here just to make a better opportunity because they know that they can have a better future here in the United States than back in the country they were at first, either Central America or South America, even Africa, because they want a better opportunity here. They want to work. They want to build another future. These families are not here, like Trump said, wants to steal, wants to rape, wants to create crimes. They're here to work hard. That's the only reason they're here. They're here to work hard, like any American, like any person in this country, to work hard. They're not here. And like my mother liked to say, her only crime was working hard and working to help my future, build my future, and build my family's future.
What are some suggestions that you would have for someone who, um, let's say, someone who's not going to protest, and not because it's not in their heart, or not because they don't believe that some of the things that are going on are wrong in terms of what this administration is doing, but it's just not what they're going to do, but they want to help anyway, or somebody that's elderly who physically can't get out there and march and protest. What are some things that they could do in order, from especially with this particular situation with immigrants being separated from their families? What are some things that they could do to kind of help out the cause, get their voices heard? What are suggestions that you have for those people?
It's easy stuff. We have technology now, so at the tip of your fingers, you can post about this injustice. Get people informed in your social media platforms. Also, you can join, nonprofit organizations, volunteer at their drives, or volunteer on things they need from you. You can also volunteer at fundraisers or give to fundraisers. As long as you are active in the movement, it's all fine. If you don't want to protest, that's fine. That's part of activism. But other parts of activism is going into nonprofit organizations and helping them out with what they need. So that's the thing that I like about activism. You don't have to be all of this vocal like I am, but you can do little things like that. And that's something that I've been seeing in the activist community a lot, is that more in the young activist community, is that if you don't come out, you don't support the issue. No. If you're not coming out, it's because you want to do something else. Work with a nonprofit organization, or donate, or post it on your social media. But that's a big problem, and I think those young activists need to get that out their head, that protesting is not the only thing that you can do in activism.
With what you're doing, right now in terms of the, you said you're interning for the councilman, working downtown, basically. Can you see yourself like organizing your own? Yeah, like I said, a lot of young people. You are, well thought of in terms, well respected in terms of your peers. Can you see yourself coming up with having a group where you kind of lead the charge, so to speak, in terms, developing those relationships? And I mean, I don't want to say it's something like well, I will say it, maybe something like a NAACP or something branching off in terms of like an organization like that. Can you see yourself leading that type of group in the future? Have you had any thoughts about that?
I do see myself doing something like the NAACP or any other organization. But for me, it's not. I like to lead, but for me, it's like I want everybody to be leaders. It's not only going to be me. I want everybody to have a part of this process, and because we are all in this together, we need to do this together. Not one person is going to lead. Not one person is going to. Everybody should have a part, and everybody should be engaged into it, and have their say. Not one person should have their say. And I'm gonna add something else. I'm really hungry to run for public office at the local level. I really want to run for a council seat, or maybe the mayor. I've told the council member twice that I'll take his job any day of the week if he's not going to be accountable for things. And I told the mayor twice too, I'm going to take your job as well if you're not accountable. Because as an elected official, you're working for the city. You're not working for developers. You're not working for other people. I'm not saying that my council member works for developers. She's doing a great job in work too. But the mayor, I've seen that she's been working with, trying to bring Amazon, bringing these stadiums to cause gentrification. No, I want to work for the city. I want to work for the black population, the Latino population that's been here for a long time, and I want to work for them. I want to better their communities and want to, give them what they deserve, because this city belonged to us first before the gentrifiers came along and, try to bring other populations to start, kicking other people out. But yeah, I'm really itching to go into be an elected official and work for the city.
Yeah, it's funny that you bring that up because I remember a time, and I've been down here since '04, so I've been down here almost, better part of close to 15 years. Remember a time when DC was called Chocolate City. You don't hear that term. Don't hear that term. You don't hear that term too much anymore. But I do. There was a time when DC was called Chocolate City. So it's funny that was one of the thoughts that came to mind when you talked about that. Were you into politics before this administration got voted in? Is that something that's been? It sounds like it's something that's been, could have been like a lifelong goal, or maybe, even going past, the Trump administration. Is that something that interests you even before all this stuff went down?
No, this was not something that was, interesting to me before the Trump administration. Before the Trump administration, during the Obama administration, I was more into sports. Seeing, how Washington football team was doing. I wanted to see how, the Wizards were doing. Capitals, National, DC sports was something big to me. See how Kobe did. You know how you like Kobe. I wanted to see how Kobe did too, LeBron and everybody else. But I was focused on sports and was writing more articles on sports stuff than politics. But when Trump administration came in, I started to get more informative on politics and started watching CNN and started reading books about how the political system was working and how just being an informative person, because if I'm going to go into this field
90 seconds
and you need to look at the good and bad of this political system. But yeah, I wasn't interested in politics before, but yeah, this passion just hit me as something like a calling for me.
Talk about the importance, and I'll let you go here in a couple minutes. Talk about the importance of holding. You mentioned it about holding public officials accountable. Talk about the importance of that, and how do you
60 seconds.
how do you hold a Mayor Bowser, or your own the councilman that you work for, is his name Kelly, right? Councilman.
No, Alan.
Okay. How do you hold them accountable for what they do in terms of the city? Because I think that was a real important point you made.
You keep them accountable by going to town hall meetings or having a meeting with them in their offices and telling them, hey, you promised this and that, and you're not accomplishing that. Or you said this was going to be for the city for a few more years, or this was the plan for the city in the years, and you're not doing that. Or, hey, why is my neighborhood
10 seconds.
Just, telling them that you care about the city and telling them that, hey, you promised this, you promised that in your campaign, you said this in other town hall meetings and you're not accomplishing. You tell them. You have to be aggressive with them, because as a person of color in D.C., you have to be aggressive with your elected officials, because they work for you. They don't work for themselves. They work for you. And, like I said, we need to bring the Chocolate City back. And as we're seeing with Mayor Bowser and her, bringing development, the Chocolate City is kind of, rapidly leaving. And I don't like that. This originally was an African American city and also a Latino city, and a lot of people are just leaving. And just bringing them accountable for these issues and these problems that are happening in DC is important. And I for sure told them that I was going to keep them accountable. And if it takes me to run for elected official, that's what I'm going to do, because I envision a DC that I want. And I want to bring that to the Wilson building. And that's my dream right now. Go to the Wilson building and be maybe the mayor of Washington, D.C., or an out-large council member, or a Ward 6 council member.
Well, definitely, Angel, you are well on your way towards that, without question. Thank you for joining the program. And again, we're gonna definitely keep you.
I got a question for you.
Sure.
So, how do you think about LeBron going to the Lakers? I know you've been partying for 3 days, haven't you?
Listen, it's anytime you can get the best player in the world and give up nothing for him, it's a win. It's a win for the franchise. It was obviously it's a game changer for the franchise. That franchise has struck out on so many free agents in the past, whether it is Carmelo Anthony, LaMarcus Aldridge, LeBron, Kevin, not even getting meetings with Kevin Durant. So they had to get, this was a must get for them, for Magic and Rob Pelinka and, Jeannie Buss and that franchise. So now it's a matter of what do they put around him. So you had the big piece, the most important piece in LeBron. What are you going to surround him with? You talking about, besides the Kawhi Leonard elephant in the room, we'll see what happens with that. But you gotta get shooters around them. You gotta get guys. They have some veterans around them. I'm not in love with some of these signings. Lance Stevenson, JaVale McGee. I like Rondo, but the most important piece is in hand in terms of LeBron. So you have him, and you just build around that. But they have to do it quickly though, because remember, this guy, as great as he is, he's 33 years old, and he's closer to the end than the beginning. So, but again, it was an absolute franchise game changer. Huh?
Thank you for taking LeBron, because the East is an easy ride for the Wizards next year, hopefully, with Dwight Howard as center and John Wall, and pieces that we need to improve on. But thank you for taking him. Wanting back in the East. You good.
Oh yeah, you said you wanted to get him out. You wanted to get him out the Eastern Conference. Yeah. Well, now the East should be open. Well, not real open, but it'll be between Philly and Boston. So Boston and Philadelphia will be one of the two teams to be in the Eastern Conference now. But again, man, thanks for
thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks for calling in. We will keep you a part of this program as far as updates and things in terms of protests and stuff like that. So be on the lookout for getting future calls from me in terms of this. You did a tremendous job.
Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Quinn. Keep doing your podcast, and you have a nice day.
All right, you too, man. I appreciate it. Thanks. Thank you. Thanks to Angel Henriquez for joining the program. Listen, this guy is a tremendous young man. He is, what can you say about him? That obviously I've known Angel for a long time. I'm biased, but this guy is going to make some. He's going to make some major moves around DC. He could be a mayor. I would not be surprised least be surprised in another 10 to 15 years. That he is the mayor of DC. That would not shock me in the least bit. That he will be one of the future mayors of Washington D.C., councilman, senator, that type of deal. He is going to make some changes, and he's committed. He's committed to what he's doing. He's believing in what he's doing. He has a purpose, and he's serving that purpose right now. So, thanks to him for joining the program. I will see you next time. I'm out.